First up, we've got for public comments. Anybody out there? Tyler, you want to tell us how your summer went? Or?
It's actually been pretty good. Thank you for asking. Yeah. Stoughton's beautiful.
All right. All right. No public comment. Communications. Anybody? Dave usually got one, right? Nothing? All right. Anybody else?
No, we're just continuing to work on the budget. So we'll have, I think they put together some proposed dates for meetings. So we'll be sending those out to council as soon as they're confirmed.
All right.
Actually, those dates already went out to council.
Yeah, I did see them. Yeah. All right. If no other communications, then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the August 22nd meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Dave. Is there a second? Second by Greg. Any edits, questions, comments? All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right. Next item we've got up is to enter into an agreement with Ehlers for pro forma analysis related to 211 South Water Street.
We recently got a TIF application along with a pro forma or their financials for 211 South Water Street, the two gentlemen who are over my shoulder here. And a kind of standard practice is to have Ehlers actually review the numbers and give us their opinions on them. Bottom line, they're looking for $514,000 from memory. I see Gary Becker's online. Gary, is there anything that you wanted to add on this resolution? I guess not. That was all I was going to bring up. Is there any questions that the committee has? Are you looking for comments from the property owners or anything?
Just a question. It looks like the $3,000 fee is anticipated requesting reimbursement from the developer. Is that for certain, or is that something you'd work out?
Well, we'd have to work out a developer agreement.
Okay.
So that's our standard practice to do so, but we're just starting in the process now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would just add that we anticipate there may be some other requests. So you might recall that TIF 4 is a downtown district. We're within the 5-year period where we can't reinvest any more money into that district. We can only collect the increment. And there's been conversations with other business owners that want to invest in their buildings, and this is the first of what could be multiple requests. So we're anticipating that if you move forward with this, we will get more, and then we'll have to evaluate each one on their own merit to see whether or not they can meet, but-for test and create enough increment, to offset the ask and those types of things.
And that's what leads us into our next item that we brought up.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
the two kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any questions about this particular one. We'll see when the pro forma is done on it, and then ask some more questions into it a little bit later.
Correct.
Only thing I would say is on the TIF request that I'd like to see a little bit more on the sustainability bit of it. I would hope that most places are going to put in energy efficient appliances and windows and insulation and things. Those seem to be boilerplate items on there, but something a little bit over and above is kind of something that as a council we agreed that sustainability is an important factor for us. So and we've included it on that TIF application, so we'd like to see something with a little more forward looking. Does anybody have any other questions on this agreement for Ehlers? If not, then I would entertain a motion to recommend to council. All right, motion by Lisa, second by Greg. Any other questions on this agreement? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council.
That'll go to council in 2 weeks then.
2 weeks. Okay, so the red line was just to add it in for the amended.
Well, I originally had this as a time-sensitive item, and I was directed to take it out of time-sensitive and put it into normal mode.
Got it. Okay, no problems. All right, so we will see that then in 2 weeks. All right, so the next up is to enter into an agreement with Ehlers to create tax increment district number 10 related to the previous item.
As Tim mentioned, we're in the period where the downtown TID number 4 can't have any more project expenditures. In addition to this one, as Tim mentioned, we're anticipating 2, maybe more TIF requests. Talking with Gary Becker, one of the things that we can do is an overlay TIF district, which, as the title says, places right on the top of TID 4, can include the same footprint or a different footprint if you want. But that's the recommendation that we have from Gary Becker, our consultant. The resolution is to actually work with Ehlers to create TID number 10, which for right now, I'm just calling it downtown overlay, for lack of a better term. Gary, I see you're with us. Is there anything you wanted to add?
No, just that this 211 Water Street is the first TIF request we've gotten from the downtown in a while, but there are several others developing. There are a number of interesting projects that are being talked about. In addition, if there was a TIF district, I think it would stimulate a lot more second floor conversions and reuse activity. So I'm glad to see this presented to the Finance Committee tonight.
Oh,
Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Greg's got one.
Good evening, Gary. Wondering, this being an overlays on TIF 4, what happens when TIF 4 closes? Does that have any effect on it?
No, it has no effect on it. Any of the property that was in TID 4, if there's any new development on that, when it's in the new TID, all of that increment would go to the new TID, and there would be no impact on the underlying TID 4. And when that closes, similarly, there's no impact on the overlying TID.
Okay, I
So,
guess I'm struggling to try and see how that would work, because how does the increment work then? Because you have an increment set up in TIF 4. How does that affect the increment in the new TIF then, TIF 10? I'm just struggling to figure out how this works.
When TID 4 dissolves, so the increment that it has, it'll continue to accumulate increment. If there's a parcel that's in both of the TIDs, then any existing increment that was on that parcel will continue to accumulate to the old TID, but any new increment that's on that parcel goes to the new TID. When the TIF dissolves, then that increment goes away, essentially, with the TID. So all the TID 4 increment goes back to the city, goes to the overlying taxing jurisdictions. But now any new increment from when the new TID was created starts accumulating in the new TIF district.
Okay,
So you're
Okay.
basically closing one TIF out, you're taking all of that increment and putting it back on the tax base, so all the overlying taxing jurisdictions can benefit from it. Then you're basically starting over, starting from scratch with the new TIF district, and it has to build its own increment over time, if that makes sense.
maybe.
I think what he's
I'll
saying-
work on it.
It's like TID 4, the board is set, so nothing else can be changed or added to that. All that's doing is running out its last years that we have it open. So anything that's, you know, take a Polaroid of it right now, and everything that's in there, that's gonna go into 4. So if anything new comes up, starting from if we create 10, then anything done after that creation goes into 10. I think the only thing that would complicate it is if you had a building that would have done improvements under number 4 and would want to do something under 10. That might be more complicated, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
Started with a set increment for 4, and then you overlay 10, and then now you're gonna have a new increment for 10. And I'm struggling as to how that balances out, and I think he's covered it
Well,
somewhat,
Right.
but it just,
I think it resets the base,
Yeah.
so everything,
Right.
whatever was built up in 4 gets set as the new normal, so that's the new 0.
right, if the building, I understand if the building, you know, if there was nothing done with it. But what you mentioned, having a building that has had some work done on under 4 and then is planning for work under 10, I just don't see how that's gonna work. That's puzzling me.
I think that would be complicated, but
That's what the folks at Department of Revenue are paid to figure out.
yeah.
I'll let them worry about it.
Right.
Looks like Gary has an answer for that.
Oh, yeah, Gary.
Yeah, so it's not, the increment is not based on whether or not there's been work on a property. It's what its value is relative to the date that the TIF district was created. So a property can have no work done on it, and it can still create a significant amount of increment just through property appreciation.
Oh.
And so when you create a TIF district, you're setting a base value, and then any increase in that value accumulates to the TIF district. When the TIF district closes, all of that new value that's been created since the TIF started goes back to all the taxing jurisdictions. When the new TIF, then if you create a new TIF over top of that was already, those parcels that were already in the TIF district, you're starting with a new base value. And now they would need to have improvements or property appreciation in order to grow more increment on those parcels. So it's not they're not really connected. They're two separate accounts essentially. TID 4 and the new, whatever the new TID is,
Okay, I
would be
guess-
two separate accounts, and they have two base values, and the increment is calculated in a different way for each one.
Okay, that's where my confusion lies then, as I'm looking at it as one account rather than two. Okay,
Yeah, and I'd forgotten about the, that just general appreciation also adds into the increment.
yep. Okay,
All right, does anybody have any other questions on that? I did have one other one, do you remember what the borders of TID 4 were? Like how far off of Main Street does that extend?
I'm going to defer to either Rodney or Greg, or, Gary, excuse me, on that question.
Yeah, it generally parallels West Main Street, and it goes into the East Main Street area. It parallels it by one block on either side.
Okay.
But then there's kind of a bulb on the west side where it crosses the river by the senior center and where the marathon site is the western edge of TID 4.
Got it. But then it would be up to us if we do entertain to create TIF 10, that we could either expand or contract those borders that existed from from TID 4, correct?
That's my
That's
understanding.
correct. And if I can expand on that a little bit, there'll have to be a decision as to the type of TIF district this would be. And there are 3 choices. It can be a conservation TIF, a blight elimination TIF, or a mixed-use TIF. And each of those have different requirements that could affect the boundary, how the boundary might be drawn.
Got it.
So there'll have to be some planning as we go along. Oh, Rodney's got a great map up there.
Oh, perfect. Yep.
So it's possible that there could be some parcels that would be overlying 2 TIF districts, or 3 TIF districts there, because we've got TID 5 and TID 4 that are mixed in, and if the new TID, it's possible the new TID would be in that area as well. So it's possible there could be several overlays here.
All right, well, I guess we've got a little bit of work and some back and forth to figure out, well, first if it's feasible and worth it to create number 10, and then after that, how we would classify it, and then that would determine where our borders are going to be.
Yes, that's right. I think this will take some time to develop, and there's a lot of policy questions that'll need to be answered as we go through.
Got it. All right, does anybody have any other questions on that? It's kind of complicated. All right, if none, I would entertain a motion to at least get it started with Ellers to have a look at it. Motion by Ozzy, is there a second? Second by Lisa. Any other questions on that? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And are any disagree? All right, we'll recommend that one to council, and this one also 2 weeks, Dave?
Correct.
Got it. All right. Next bit up is
Brett,
yes.
Because this was an amended agenda, I did not want to move things around, so I'm asking that we do item number 9 last, because that will be a closed session.
Got it. Okay. All right. Any objection to moving 9 to the end? All right. So let's go into the discussion and possible action regarding the debt issue 2023A pre-sale spreadsheet.
Okay, just for your information, the information that's in our packet is in the Common Council as just a communication. The intent is that because we did not get we still don't have the resolution language from Quarles and Brady, I couldn't put it into the finance packet tonight. So the intent is to have a time-sensitive item for the debt issue on the 22nd for council. It's up to you folks whether you want to make any recommendations right now or not without seeing the Quarles and Brady resolution. Bottom line, we are looking to borrow $6.3 million in a bond issue. A separate resolution, we're going to look at about $700,000 from the state trust fund loan. But we've just got the information as to the debt issue and how it's going to be affecting the levy. We've got estimates in there at 35 basis points above the last similar sale, which is very conservative, but we wanted to go that route. So, like I said, it's up to you folks whether you want to make any motion at this time to recommend to council. Otherwise, we'll have it as a time-sensitive item next. But I put this on here to see if you, as the Finance Committee, had any questions at all.
I'd prefer to hold until we have all the information and then run it as a time sensitive, but we can entertain questions on it. But
I don't have a problem with that. Like I said,
Yep.
I've got it in the council communications. I'm not going to say much about it at council, but saying, you know, here's the projected numbers for the debt issue, and then see if they have any questions. But I have no concerns with what you're proposing, Brett.
in that last graph on the end there, where you've got 23, 4, and 5 in there, and we see the principal bit of that creeping up a bit. Is that just based on what we have on CIP
Yep,
currently?
that's
Okay.
based upon CIP. Again, we're going conservative. We said just a 2% growth in equalized value.
Mhm.
If you look at the past couple years, I don't believe this spreadsheet has it. Yep, we've been at 7.3, 16.6, 13.9 for the last 3 years. So 2%'s probably very conservative, but we want to go that route just so that you're kind of seeing worst case scenario, if you want
Right.
to call it that.
But I'd like to see a lot more red on that graph. Than,
Well, we are issuing
Yep.
potentially a lot of debt
Right,
in
yep.
23s, or excuse me, 24, and also in 25. The Leadership Council tomorrow is going to be talking together. Tim's got some potential things that he wants to move around. We had a discussion earlier today with Ellers to look at maybe we can smooth some things so that we try and issue the same amount of debt every time. So it's still a work in progress for the 24 debt issue, but we'll see what we come up with.
it's that ladder truck. That will be a big
That, I
ticket in
believe,
there.
is 28, going from memory, for almost $2 million by itself.
Big ticket item.
Yes, it is.
All right, anybody have any questions on this? We will see it again with some finalized numbers next meeting, I mean.
I don't believe the numbers
They
are
probably
going to
won't
change.
But
But this is the information that was provided to Quarles. Quarles had already done a review, looked at certain things and said, okay, that can be a bond, that has to be a note, that sort of thing.
okay, all right.
So I don't anticipate the numbers changing, but there's always that
Mixture of-
possibility.
Or will it be just the mixture of the vehicles that they're going to use? Could that change? I mean, like
Well, this
bond
is
or
built related to the 23 debt. For instance, the police vehicles are not bondable; they have to be notes.
Okay.
Whereas other vehicles could potentially be bonds. But yeah, I don't see any of this changing at all.
Okay. All right, if no other questions, then we'll see this one again in 2 weeks. All right, next we've got discussion and possible action regarding unpaid June 23 room taxes due to ordinance change in rates.
If you remember, we recently changed the ordinance. Effective June 1st, the rates went from 6% to 8%.
Yep.
Well, so in the second quarter reporting, you would have paid 6% for April and May and 8% for June. We had 3 locations that did it correctly. One paid 8% for the entire quarter, so technically we would owe them a refund. And 3 paid 6% for the entire quarter, so we need to collect more money from them. The problem that we have is it's all self-reported, so we can't set a value. They're the ones who tell us. So we have communicated with them. We've sent them letters. We've sent them letters twice, and we haven't gotten any response back. As a reminder, we are keeping, now it's 20% of the revenue. My proposal is, and I'd want the support of the committee and potentially the council, we've spent a lot of staff time trying to get it, and we're not sure if we're going to get it or not. So I would like to say for these variances, we're just letting it ride and going forward, making sure everything's right July 1 and going forward. However, that's an ordinance. I don't think I have the authority to do that. So I'm looking for guidance and a potential motion from this committee as to what you'd like us to do.
Greg?
The one entity that paid 8% for the entire quarter
Yep.
would obviously feel cheated versus the ones that paid 6% for the full quarter. And if we let that go, I don't see how that would work. So I think we would need to do something. I don't think I would favor returning money and then pushing for the other, what was it, 3 entities?
Yes, there's 3 that short paid, and
Short paid,
if
yeah.
if my recommendation is we just leave everything okay. So yes, the 3 that short paid, we're not going to worry trying to collect it, and the one that overpaid, thank you. We're not going to try and give the money back, but that's something that I'm looking for authority from this committee.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm not, okay. It just.
So if I'm understanding your...
If it was me, I'd be asking for the money back then.
So am I understanding correctly that you want to forgive the 3 entities that short paid and pay the 1 entity back for the 1 month of overpayment?
If you were going to do it, I think that would be the fairest way to do it, yes.
Okay?
Yep, Lisa?
So if they haven't responded, how do we know that they will pay the right amount for the remainder of the year if we let them slide?
Well, when we've got a full quarter for July, August, September, they report room sales. So let's just say it's 100,000, and they multiply it by 6%. Well, now we know that they owe us 100,000 times 2% in that scenario. So then we can bill them because it's a known amount.
Sounds like there's really no way to square up without it a lot more legwork on the part
Well,
of...
we've asked them for that information and they have not provided it to us, so I'm kind of at a loss how to go forward with it. And like I said, we only retain 20%. The rest goes to the chamber and visitor services. So, you know, the staff time that's involved, we being the city, recoup 20% of it.
So if they've been informed, all entities have been informed.
We informed them before we made the change, actually twice, and then when they short paid us, we informed them again, and we haven't heard anything.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if they're even gonna pay the correct amount the next time.
The next time, right?
Which they may very well not
But yeah,
do.
to your point, then you've got something to go on.
Right. And I think I have to clarify what I said last time. I said July, August, September. We'd be looking at October, November, December. But yes, you're right. I am not confident that they are going to pay the next one, but with the data they gave us, we'll know how much it is.
So in that case, they've been informed, they're fully aware of what's going on, and this is what they've done. So I'd say to save yourself the problems, I would make the motion to agree with your proposal to just let it ride, see what happens.
To clarify, you still want the one entity to get paid back?
No, just let it
Okay.
ride. If they want to get paid back, they can contact you and seek that reimbursement.
Okay. And
All right, Greg's put out a motion, is there a second, support that?
and I second clarification question. Do you want this committee to make the decision, or do you want the Common Council to affirm it?
Council, I believe, because it's based off of an ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think so. I would say it needs council's approval.
Okay.
So
So
it'd be a
assuming that,
so it'd be a recommendation to council.
okay, assuming that you as a committee approve it, are you okay with me drafting the resolution as such, or did you want to see the resolution?
Draft.
Okay.
We can see it at council.
Okay. I believe we're still looking for a second. Thank you.
All right. Motion and a second. Are there any other questions on that? Clarification? Everybody clear on what we intend to do with it?
Offhand, what kind of money we're talking about for the city portion?
Well, I could make an estimate.
That's fine, I'm just curious.
But I haven't done that calculation. Without naming names, one of the entities that short paid us is the largest hotel in the city.
All right, if no other questions, then we'll recommend this to council. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that to council with Dave's drafted resolution.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Yep. All right, so then we have a resolution for contract for appraisal services to determine the appropriate market rental value for 600 South 4th Street, which I believe is the utilities building. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
From what detail I've found, it's been at least 28 years that Stoughton Utilities has been renting that facility. The latest lease expired February 28th of this year. We've been trying to figure out how to go forward. Stafford Rosenbaum has opined that we don't need a lease contract. It can just be a policy internally. However, Boardman Clark, the attorney for Stoughton Utilities, has indicated that the rent can't exceed the market basis. Well, the contracts for the last 28 years have just applied CPI-U every year. I couldn't find any indication anywhere that we've been checking market. That's a lot of years to look for stuff, but we can't find anything. So working with Matt Dragney, he found two firms that do appraisals, got quotes from them. When I drafted the resolution, I didn't have the second name or dollar amounts. I put that on your desks now. I'm kind of assuming that we just want to go with the low bid. I did not do any checking on the companies or anything. I'm assuming that they are fairly reputable because Matt searched them out because he had worked with them in the past. So I guess I'll open up the floor to any questions. Well, I should make one comment. The reason why we're getting this market analysis done is to make sure that we are charging no more than market rate to Stoughton Utilities.
So once there's an appraisal done, is this something that's going to have to be redone every X number of years, or how long would that lease agreement go for?
I think we'd have to put that in the policy, how often we would want to update that. I certainly wouldn't want to do it every year.
Right.
You probably want to consider every 3 to 5 years to have that expense so that we can verify that it is accurate.
Would that, I mean, is that, do we have appraisers do, I'm assuming we have appraisers do valuation on the city's buildings periodically for insurance adjustment, right?
I would have to defer
No.
that to AJ to answer that question. I would
I just wonder
assume
if it would be-
some sort of, reasonable amount is done.
I just wonder if it will be something that could then be included within that general appraisal if that sort of thing exists.
Well, you're talking two different things because a normal appraisal says what's the value of the building. Here we're looking at market rent rates. And I don't know if we're going to get a response back saying whatever it is, $12 per square foot per month or something like that. So it's going to give you a completely different value.
All right, I see what you're saying, yep. An apple and a different colored apple.
Right, they're very similar, but yeah, you're not going to think a Honeycrisp and a Granny Smith are the same apple.
Right.
So Dave,
Okay.
you're looking for a recommendation on one or the other here?
Yes, I would assume we're going with the lowest bidder, but
Yes. I'd make a recommendation then to recommend to council the bid from, what is it, L.A.
Dusterbeck, I believe it's,
Dusterbeck and Associates?
yeah. Yep, Dusterbeck.
Yep.
All right, motion and a second by Lisa. Any other questions on this one? All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, we'll recommend that one to council. Is that one not, no, that's the next one, next meeting. Okay. All right, so then we'll revisit item number 9, which has the potential for a closed session.
So I did not include anything in the packet because of open meetings law, but yes, we did receive a tax increment financing request, and Rodney and I were talking after the request came in and everything. We said, let's put this on both finance and council to give us some high-level direction. You as a group may say there's no way in heck we're doing this, or we want to go forward with this, that sort of thing, or
Sure.
so just so that we know when we're talking with them how we wanted to go forward. So I don't know if there's any other questions that you want to ask, or otherwise I would suggest we entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Anybody want to make such a motion?
You don't want to?
I move we go into closed session per the state statute 19.85, parent 1, Parent E, deliberating or negotiating for the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Finance Committee may reconvene in an open session to discuss and take action on the subject matter discussed in the closed session, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions on that? Objections to it? All right, well, we'll go with, if there's a unanimous ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have a unanimous ayes, no opposed. We'll move into closed session.
Josh, I'm going to have to kick you out. We're going into closed session.
See you down.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, with the only exception be Attorney Manthe. Any objections to
No.
Attorney Manthe?
Won't be offended if you give that.
Okay.
Go on. That's good.
Looks like it. We have not yet. Checking on WSTO.
Gotcha.